So obviously I don't subscribe to the original sin idea either, because I think it's very silly. And that's kind of a big thing of Christianity, is that we're born of a sinful nature. We can't possibly self-purify because it's not possible as a human being. And there's actually a book called The Biggest Lie Ever Told in the History of Christianity or something. And that was the biggest lie, is that holiness is not possible. And it's interesting because you can so blatantly see the difference in especially Western Christianity versus other religions, especially like Judaism and Islam, that are both Abrahamic religions that do believe you can self-purify, and so they practice that and their culture revolves around that. And Western Christians have way more problems with sin and like addictions to porn, addictions to alcohol, adultery, like so many things. If you don't believe the Bible is the true word of God, what are you using to base these thoughts you have of him on? So it's a very interesting question, because it's kind of implying that you must read and could only read the Bible and not need to understand anything else in order to experience God and have an opinion of God. Now, most Christians, at least the Christians that I know, do not include any theological, historical, or literary context and study coupled with their Bible reading. They only read the Bible blindly, and they still by default believe that it is the most sure way to lock in a relationship with God. But a lot of the times they hardly know what they're even reading. And this question also implies that no other holy book has a place for someone in their seeking to experience and understand God. Now, if we do only believe that there is one all-pervading God, which I do, I also then believe that there are many other ways that God can be revealed to people in other paths. There are so many cultures and religions that have tried to kind of draw out their experience and interpretation of God, just like Christianity. So it's just like this really, really white American thing to gatekeep God with the Bible. And interestingly, most Christians don't realize that in Judaism and Islam, they believe in the same God. They're monotheistic, they're Abrahamic religions, they believe in the same God. And obviously Islam has the Quran, which does validate the Bible, but says that it has been corrupted over time, and it has. People have this misconception that anything outside of evangelical Christianity is the wrong path, it's of the devil or whatever, because of propaganda and fear, or perhaps just a lack of a desire to understand and become more cultured. I don't know. But even if someone only ever reads the Bible, just like most Christians do, and they don't apply hermeneutics like most Christians don't, and they just kind of wing it and like listen to their heart when they're reading the Bible, it's just, there's just so much projection and bias that goes into that, and really they're not in any better position than someone that has never read it at all. Now personally, I have read and do read my Bible a lot. I revere the Bible, I revere Jesus, but I do not believe that the Bible is inerrant. Let's talk about the Trinity, because obviously that's like the biggest tenet of Christianity, is to believe that Jesus was God in human form and that he was a blood sacrifice, really, because of God's wrath towards humankind. Now, this is not a response to you, by the way. This is just a conversation starter. But I could not imagine a God that is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent would need to sacrifice himself or his son, both, I guess, because humans had so much power that they ruined all of creation. And that is why in the other Abrahamic monotheistic religions, they don't subscribe to that, because that's limiting. Like, you're limiting God. You're putting God in a box. You're saying, well, God was perfectly depicted in human form through Jesus, and that's just not possible. Our human brains so badly want to know God in such a human way of relating to him. Like in Islam, they see Jesus as being a prophet, just like Muhammad was, just like Moses, just like Abraham, and that all the prophets are going to come back. I think that's what they believe. But my point is that nothing that humans do, whether it's good or bad, can take away or add to God's love and mercy and power. So obviously I don't subscribe to the original sin idea either, because I think it's very silly. And that's kind of a big thing of Christianity, is that we're born of a sinful nature. We can't possibly self-purify because it's not possible as a human being. And there's actually a book called The Biggest Lie Ever Told in the History of Christianity or something. And that was the biggest lie, is that holiness is not possible. And it's interesting because you can so blatantly see the difference in especially Western Christianity versus other religions, especially like Judaism and Islam, that are both Abrahamic religions that do believe you can self-purify, and so they practice that and their culture revolves around that. And Western Christians have way more problems with sin and like addictions to porn, addictions to alcohol, adultery, like so many things, because they already have it in their mind that, well, I can't be perfect because I'm a sinful piece of shit human. And so they naturally just won't ever come close to achieving that. It's just quite oppressive, really. I've accepted, and also very Gnostic, which is really ironic. This is going to sound crazy to people that were not raised in this culture, but as an American that was raised in a like conservative Christian area, there was almost nothing more scary than the idea of Islam. We have been so conditioned to think of Islam, and then what comes to mind is terrorism, oppression, violence. As a Christian, you would never want people to see your lukewarm, alcoholic, abusive family member who claims to be Christian and say, oh, that's Christianity? Or to see, what were they, like Southern Baptists who would hold up the signs that say God hates fat, and then be like, oh, so that's what it means to be Christian. No, you would be like, that's not Christianity. That's just bad culture. Unfortunately, it is so easy for the most loud and militant, fundamental, and obnoxious people become the face of something. So if you look at Eastern Orthodox Christians versus evangelical Christians in the United States, they do not compare to each other. I have gone down almost every spiritual path you could think of, and that's because I'm an avid seeker, constantly seeking. God is constantly talking to me in new ways. And I never expected that I would even become curious about the religion of Islam. I did not before realize just how actually close to home Islam is. It feels like the antithesis to Christianity, but it is also an Abrahamic monotheistic religion, just like Judaism, just like Christianity. And I have made my way back to Christianity so many times from new angles, trying to be able to relate and to connect to God through that theology, and it just does not work for me. There's so many things that I love and respect and revere about Christianity, but what's funny is all of those things are the qualities that are also in the other Abrahamic religions like Judaism and Islam. And the things that I had a problem with were the main tenets of Christianity: the Trinity, penal substitution theory, and original sin. I don't agree with any of those. And if I don't agree with any of those, can you even consider yourself a Christian? Probably not.